What's going on, guys? Pete Nova here with Player Profiler. Today, we are finally doing our last rookie mock of the offseason. I'm joined by Johnny Tuma from Player Profiler. Stay tuned. All right, folks, I'm going to pull up the board here. We got a good full house crew, a lot of content creators in the building. Make sure I take that noise off as well. Actually, here we go. Bang. All right. So, a lot's kind of happened at this point in time, right? We're finally getting close to training camp. Dust is kind of settled. This will be a good barometer for me and you, Johnny, to get a feel for where we kind of are at with these rookies at this point. I know my rankings have changed a ton from the beginning of the offseason to when the draft happened until now, right? We've had OTAs. We've had a lot go on so far. And so I'm curious to see what guys for you have risen maybe the most, and to get your thoughts on, some of these rookies.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. It's a fun exercise, and there's certainly going to be some names that are going to be drafted here that were not drafted in earlier mocks, based on some of the off-season chatter we've heard.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like we did get an auto pick for the first pick. Not off to a great start there, but that's okay. Let me see. But yeah, there's been a lot of news, right? Travis Hunter is a guy who, really, really flew up the boards for a lot of people. And, then there was the videos of him not running the most crisp routes, right? Everyone was kind of overreacting to all of that. And, I just think it's rookie hot take season, right? You look at the best ball draft ADP, and there are some rookies like Luther Burden, who was going inside the top 100. His ADP's fallen like 40 to 50 spots.
Right.
So it's just a good example of like, we get so jacked up. We love the draft. And then, dust starts to settle and we start to finally kind of say, hey, maybe we got to temper expectations just a little bit.
Yeah, you're on the clock here, and I agree, man. Fade Travis Hunter. Fade him into oblivion. There you go. Because I'm up next, and it's a no-brainer for your boy. I'm taking all the Travis Hunter. I'm buying any dip I can. His like ADP swings have been so awesome. Like, oh, he's not gonna, this team sees him as a cornerback, and then his ADP dips, and then it's like, oh, but what if he goes to the Browns and they see him as a receiver, and then it rises, and then, oh, he's not running crisp routes, and so. The dude is going to wear a gold jacket one day, and I think he'll be a top-end fantasy producer as well. So I'm taking him at 106 any chance I can.
Listen, you're a Colorado guy. Now I don't know if you're a Buffs guy or
Yeah,
not.
I'm a big Buffs fan.
Okay,
sure.
so there's a little bias here. Mile High Mario is also a Broncos fan, right? He's I don't know. Do you know who Mario is?
Yeah, he's cool. He's like a physical therapist for some of the Broncos players. Actually, he's kind of plugged in. So I bet you he's not happy I sniped him. Wouldn't be surprised to see him go and take RJ Harvey if he comes to him.
Well, we'll see.
Look, there it is.
Yeah, I think ironically, I think his dad was like one of the lead physical therapy guys for the Broncos like years ago. So he's pretty plugged into the team. But just taking a look at the board here, not a ton of surprises, I would say. Travis Hunter, I guess, falling to the 106 is probably a surprise for some. I know, like, look, I think Travis Hunter is going to be good, and you take him, and I'm not worried about him being a producer long term. I just am in love with Trevon Henderson. I think he's going to give an impact day one for fantasy. And Hunter is still kind of just a question mark of like, how they're going to utilize him. He's going to play offense. I totally get that, but I know Henderson's going to, I think Henderson has like true top 5 potential. Whereas Travis Hunter, I just don't see that because of Brian Thomas there and just like him splitting time with defense. I think there's a couple of factors there. Whereas Henderson, honest opinion, I really do think he could be a top 5 player in fantasy. And I think you could be looking at Henderson after if he has a strong rookie season. I don't think it's out of the question to say that Henderson could be, I mean, valued as a top 5, top 8 dynasty rookie, dynasty running back asset. I mean, is that crazy to say in your opinion?
No, not at all. And I mean, I had a trade that was keeping me up for several evenings. The guy was willing to trade me Drake London and Travion Henderson, and I was going to give up Jameer Gibbs and add like a little cherry on top. Ultimately, couldn't do it. It was a 10-team league, single QB, and just like having a top end guy like Gibbs there was just too hard to let go when he just won me the championship. But yeah, that was one that kept me up because I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, well, what if Travion Henderson is like three quarters of what Gibbs is, and you get London too, right? So that was one of the more interesting trades that I noodled on. And before I ever came to a decision, the guy actually withdrew the offer.
Mm,
Oh, now I'm on the clock again. Uh, Interesting. Let's see. So we've seen Golden go off the board. This is just one of my guys. I've been pumping him up all off season. I think he's a solid player. I would have loved him to run into a more pass heavy offense, but Trey
yeah.
Harris is great. Another guy I'll call out, the one at 111, and I think is a great value, is Emeka Egbuka. Like, that dude is just so cerebral, such a solid player. And I think he could end up being just a great long-term asset. Like, Godwin's been through multiple significant injuries. Mike Evans isn't going to be last forever, right?
Sure.
And so I think you're getting a discount on Igbuka because of the landing spot. This is a top 20 pick who's OSU's all-time leading receiver. I could see him having a pretty big role this year, and they're already raving that this guy knows the entire playbook inside and out. They can put him at any wide receiver position. So just a guy I would call out is like, I think maybe slipped a little bit too far in this mock, but it's realistic, but I certainly wasn't able to get him that late in any of the drafts that I've been in.
I've seen it. I've seen Igbuka fall, in some drafts. I've seen him slide to even second round. I think it's kind of nuts. They have, I mean, when you think about rookies at the skill position, right? Like, I truly don't know if there's a more hyped player right now than Igbuka in terms of just like praise in camp.
Right.
Maybe Jaden Higgins, who I'm a huge fan of. Higgins has looked apparently phenomenal. I've seen some really nice catches from him in some clips from camp. But I think, I mean, I do want to circle back to at least Trey Harris. I took Burden over Harris. I'm a big fan of Harris, but long term, I'm just trying to envision, if DJ Moore is possibly on the way out, right? Luther Burden maybe doesn't give me an impact year one, but I know in a Ben Johnson offense, they will pass the ball a lot.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking long term with that pick, I do like Trey Harris. And in some drafts, I took Trey Harris over Luther Burden, but I think as the dust is settled, right? Like
He's not been playing, right? He's been dealing with some soft tissue
right,
stuff, and even Ben Johnson's like, hey, he's missing valuable reps, right?
but
And you hate hearing a coach say that.
But that's the crazy thing. I'm higher on Burden after all of that than I was before, just because again, I think when you have to take a step back and realize that like that rookie fever and like guys that we really like, sometimes it pushes guys up a little bit higher than they should go. I definitely prefer Higgins over Burden and Harris right now. But I mean, I could be swayed on both guys. I like Harris. I like Burden. I think Harris is in an offense that could get him more looks at least year one. But long term, Burden's skill set I think is just better from a fantasy perspective, and he'll be in a higher powered or at least a more pass happy offense.
Yeah.
So
I'm taking Burden over Golden, Higgins, and Harris, just to be clear.
mm,
Like, he's my wide receiver 4 here pretty comfortably. So I agree with you. I mean, he's just one of those guys with the ball in his hands who's just got a lot of skills. So
sure.
you're up on the clock here at 3:05. I'm kind of curious to see what you're going to do. Starts to get a little ugly here. And yeah, I think Mason Taylor is the right pick, but like in a non-tight end premium league, you're just like, bleh. But at the end of the day, I mean, Harold Fannin went off the board before Mason Taylor. That's pretty interesting when Mason Taylor is going to be the starter week 1, as opposed to Fannin, who's going to have to carve out a role with David Njoku in there.
Yeah, Njoku, while you're picking, Njoku is
We both
Njoku.
love him. You and I both love him.
I love him. He's also a free agent after this year. So
That's a good point.
maybe that's some like intrigue. I'm not gonna lie to you. I have not been a big fan of Harold Fannin Jr. I love Mason Taylor. He was my tight end 3
Yep.
coming into the pre-draft process. I think Terrence Ferguson is my tight end 3 post-draft out of
Yep.
this rookie class. Love the landing spot for Terrence Ferguson. I love the Rams taking him. I think overall, like, the Rams have been looking for that tight end in this offense the last 2 drafts. They haven't gotten the guy that they want. And now they get Ferguson, who I think really fits that offense extremely well. And I'm super excited. I do want to mention one thing. Krosky Merritt goes before Sampson, Devin Neal. If you
7th
were
rounder.
drafting, dude, if you were drafting like 2 months ago, a month and a half ago, like Krosky Merritt would not be a 3rd round pick, but I actually don't think it's that crazy. I mean, I know Sampson and Neal went higher than him in the actual NFL draft, but I'm not in love with Brian Robinson. I don't think he's the
Me
most
either.
talented guy. Eckler's getting up there in age. Krosky Merritt, the reports are that he's got some pop, and he was a good player in college. And we've seen time and time again these late round running backs produce. So I actually think that's a pretty that's not crazy to take him that high. Do you agree with that?
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, it's definitely a little rich when, like, in my opinion, there's guys like
Hunter,
Giddens who's
maybe.
still on the board as well. Like, I really like, yeah, Jarquez Hunter, right?
Sure.
I think just in general, to go back to the Rams for a second, whenever you see McVay get excited about a guy, like he did with Ferguson, like he did with Jarquez Hunter, like he did with Puka Nakua, like there's merit there, right? Like they all go out and get these guys who they kind of have a vision for. And I think Jarquez brings a little different flavor to that running game than what Blake Corum and Kyron Williams have to offer. So I think it's a little rich for my blood,
Sure.
just because of some 4th rounders, are going to have a higher hit rate than a 7th rounder.
Sure.
Merritt's an interesting guy because, like, he didn't play his whole senior year because of eligibility issues. To your point, that room is really underwhelming. So we'll just see. I mean, I'm kind of eating my own dog food when I say, like, oh, that's a bit of a reach when there's some 4th rounders on the board. Like, I took Jaden Blue at the 3-6 ahead of a bunch of 4th round guys like Sampson and Hunter. And there's still some on the board. Woody Marks is still out there, right? I mean, I know they signed Nick Chubb, but again, a lot of the analysis that I've done throughout the years is you have to follow the draft capital, because it's indicative of production almost more than anything else we can lean on. So it's just interesting to see even a guy like me take a shot on Jaden Blue because there's just so much upside there. He's got juice, and the room is freaking terrible, right?
Terrible.
As a Broncos fan, how miserable it is watching Javonte Williams run the football.
Which is super. I mean, it's super unfortunate because I really loved Javante, but I mean, it's just a case of a guy that got injured really, really bad, and
Never
just
bounced back.
never
Yeah.
bounced back. Yeah,
Yeah.
never bounced back. I do want to note Mile High Mario Harvey. Obviously, this is a Broncos fan, as we kind of mentioned
Pat
before.
Bryant.
Pat Bryant. But again, I mean, I know Kyle Williams, we're all raving about him, but Pat Bryant was a day 2 pick.
Yeah.
So is it that crazy? Maybe you could get Pat Bryant in the 3rd, but I don't know. I mean, I'm always of the opinion, look, like, you go get your guy.
Go get your
If
guy.
you didn't think Pat Bryant was going to come back to you at the 3-9, then
Go get
sure,
him.
take him at the 2-9 if you really truly believe in him. I'm never gonna hate on somebody for doing that. Now, I do want to go ahead and say that I'm going to take DJ Giddens.
You
I do
sniper.
really like Giddens. I just think when I target like handcuffs, I try to look at bell cows, right?
Yeah.
Guys that are in bell cow roles. And Jonathan Taylor is truly a bell cow. He's in a bell cow role. They don't really feature other running backs when he's there. And so if there's a world where he has had issues staying healthy, Giddens steps in as a bell cow if he is that RB2, and he gets immediate, RB2 upside slash low end RB1 on any given week if he steps into that offense and has to be the starter. So I think Giddens is a good value there. And I'm pretty sure Taylor, I'd have to take a look at it, but I'm curious. I think his contract is movable after this year. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they're going to move on from Jonathan Taylor, but I do think the contract's movable, and if they do love Giddens, this is a guy that they were super hesitant on signing an extension for.
Right.
So,
Been
you
injury prone, right? And Giddens is the type of guy who just was super, super great with efficiency metrics in college, kind of fell deeper in the draft than I expected to. Insane RAS, insane athleticism. And I love what you're saying. Like if a guy like Jonathan Taylor goes down, you feel good that Giddens is going to beat out a guy like Khalil Herbert and potentially see 15 plus carries a game, right?
Yeah. Well, and to note, Jonathan Taylor's contract is up after 2026. They can move on from him with just a $2.5 million cap hit if they were to cut him after this year. I'm not saying that they're going to cut Jonathan Taylor. I'm not saying, oh, DJ Giddens is the future in Indianapolis, but what I am saying is it's a decent shot to take. Now, I do want to note as well. I keep bringing it up, but Mile High Mario drafts Jalen Lane, who has been kind of getting some good reports in training camp over there with the Commanders. So an interesting draft. He doubles up on Broncos and he doubles up on Commanders, who are both with rookie quarterbacks from last year, who were arguably the best quarterbacks from the rookie class last season going into this year. I know Caleb, I know Drake May. We can talk semantics of those guys and the
Exactly.
whole class as a whole, but arguably Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels was better than Nix, but they're both still phenomenal. This guy takes two players from both teams. Maybe he's investing into that offense,
Yeah.
into those offenses, right?
Yeah,
Because
that's an interesting it is an interesting build he's going for. Another one I'll call out is our boy Brendan Booth, big boned. He's on auto draft, but I know he queued up some Land Larison because that was not going to be an auto pick. Huge, huge fan of him. I think he played at like UC Davis and is a kind of a dual threat guy for them.
yeah,
He's a very poor man's Travion Henderson, and then 2 picks before him, I went and got Brashard Smith. Again, there's guys like Woody Marks, fourth round running backs, still haven't been drafted. We're taking undrafted running backs like Lan Larison and seventh rounders like Brashard Smith and Kyle Monankai ahead of him, which is interesting. But I'm willing to take the role on a guy like Brashard Smith. I think he's been getting a little overhyped at this point. But if again, Pacheco doesn't really move me as a very like versatile player. And I think that's what Brashard Smith brings is like something like in an ideal world kind of plays that Jerick McKinnon role, gets a lot of swing passes, a lot of, close to behind the line of scrimmage passes. Mahomes is a low A-dot guy the past few years with Matt Nagy in that offense. And so totally willing to kind of go outside the process of just going off of draft capital and take some swings for the fences with these running backs I've taken in the past 2 rounds.
yeah, I love Brashard Smith. The biggest thing for him is just like running in between the tackles, right? As a converted wide receiver, like can he run in between the tackles? But it's not surprising to see them take him in terms of just like he stresses out a defense so much in college. If you take a look at just like him on the field and just his big plays, like he's very athletic. He's a really, really big playmaker. And I think overall, you're looking at a guy that steps into that Jerick McKinnon maybe role where Isaiah Pacheco is not a guy that's like an amazing pass catcher.
Right.
Kareem Hunt can catch the football and be that like guy out of the backfield, but like he's not going to necessarily he's not going to wow you and be a difference maker there, right? Brashard Smith, I think, is a guy that could be a playmaker for them in that pass game. And so I'm very interested. I think it's a good pick. I think my next pick's going to be a bit of a surprise with my final pick here. And I always like to take chances on running backs at the end. I don't want to spoil it, right?
Yeah.
We got 20 seconds here.
Hopefully you don't get sniped.
I'm adding a lot of build up here. So we'll see if this is, hopefully this isn't an auto pick here at the end. And I did have a couple people that said they did set their queues just in case they got auto picked. So no worries there. Okay, well, Ollie Gordon was not the guy I was going to take, so that's a good thing. The player that I was looking at here is LaQuint Allen from the Jaguars.
Interesting.
Final pick out of Syracuse, and honestly, I everyone's so focused on this running back room, and I'm not here to tell you that LaQuint Allen's going to be the RB1 in this room, but we're so focused on, is it Tootin? Is it
Bigsby.
ETN? Is it
Yeah.
Bigsby? Right. And like LaQuint Allen as a pass catcher, I think can be effective and honestly might fit that role the best. And honestly, there's been some good reports for him. So I'm gonna go ahead and take him here. I think it's an interesting pick. Again, we're talking about a 5th round pick here, the last pick. And I always, again, like to take shots on running backs towards the end because we've just seen so many late round running backs like end up being viable for fantasy. So I'll take Allen there, and you take Horton from Seattle. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about him?
Dude, I mean, the Colorado man in me is showing, right? He's a CSU player, absolutely the life and lifeblood of their team while he was there. Dealt with injuries, could have been a much higher pick had he came out earlier. Just absolutely lit it up his sophomore and junior seasons. The talent is there. Awesome athleticism. He came back from the injury and performed at the combine really, really solidly. And you think about that receiving room. It's Cooper Kupp, JSN, and then you've got guys who he's going to be fighting with, like Marquez Valdez Scantling on the outside. And I'm like, if that's his competition for being an outside receiver in that offense, like, give it to me. In the 5th round, are you kidding? Like, I love his talent. I like the landing spot. Sam Darnold was throwing the deep ball a lot. There was no team that threw more deep ball completions and touchdowns than the Vikings last year. And, I think that's a lot of that is the product of just that KOC offense and him being a quarterback whisperer. But shit, if you think that Darnold has a lick of talent throwing it deep, then Horton could be a beneficiary early on.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think that that wide receiver even 3 spot is not really, it's not really necessarily locked up. It's kind of in the air. Horton 6'2", 196. He can maybe play on the outside a little bit, right? You have JSN and Cooper Kupp who both project to be can both kind of go inside in terms of playing in that slot, where Horton maybe provides a little bit of a different build at the wide receiver position. I'm taking a look here, and it's so funny. We talk about killing a draft here. Chev gets auto picked, and the other auto pick are 2 kickers. I don't even think I've ever seen a kicker go in a rookie draft. I didn't even think that was possible. So apologize, folks. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but hopefully don't kill us in the comments there. I do want to say that Efton Chisholm, interesting pick here at the end. Guy from New England who's made some waves in camp so far. I'm trying to just take a look at like maybe my favorite team here if we're excluding both of our teams. I'm gonna maybe it might be Honcho just because I like Tet Higgins. I'm fine with Royals. I'm not in love with Fannin. I don't really actually, you know what? I'm not going to take the nice route. I don't really love a lot of these teams at all. I'm not going to be Mr. Nice Guy in this one. I think if I'm calling it straight, I think Colin at the end at the 112, getting Tootin, getting Hunter, getting Woody Marks, even Williams from Green Bay, who is somebody who
a 512.
Yeah, I mean, I think people have completely forgotten about him and don't really care for him, but he was a third round pick.
Yeah.
So I think Colin maybe if we're excluding our teams, I think Colin probably had the most interesting and maybe the best draft out of everybody. What about you?
I
Anybody
do like
sticking out?
Mile High Mario, like the way you broke it down. He's targeting offenses that are ascending. He's got key rookies in both those offenses, and then he gets a guy like Chisholm, who's kind of the like off-season undrafted darling, right?
Mhm.
So that one's fun. And then I don't hate the picks from the 102. Like Hampton is kind of the clear guy for me at 102. Golden, you're getting a discount on a first round receiver in the second round. Jalen Knoll, I personally would probably say I think he'll end up being the better receiver
Mm,
from Iowa State. I know I'm going against the grain with what you maybe think there,
that's
but
all right.
he's got a lot of dog in him. Like when I interviewed him at the combine, I was like, what are teams going to love the most about you? He said, my competitive nature. And just the way he said it, he has a lot of dog in him. He was, he absolutely performed stellar at the combine in terms of running, bench press, every athletic measurement he could put forward. He absolutely excelled at. And I just love a guy like that who's a gym rat. Then you get Thornton in the fourth round, who's, like I said, a guy who probably wasn't getting drafted at all a few months ago, but now the reports are that he's kind of the guy who could be that third receiver, not Jack Besh, which I don't think I think that's actually noise, but Thornton's got speed. He's got a great yards per route run metric from college. And then he ends up with Phil Maffa, who's also kind of like a deep sleeper.
Mhm.
If you really hate that Cowboys running back room and you think that Blue's a little undersized, like Maffa could be a guy who could earn a role. So think that's a solid draft overall as well.
Yeah, I talked about that. I've talked about Mafa to Matt, the Podfather, a couple weeks ago on Mind a Mansion because I was saying if you're looking at the Origins draft, like Mafa could be like that guy that you take towards the end where like people aren't really thinking too much. Like he could very well take over that like early down role.
Right.
He reminds me a little bit of James Conner in some ways in terms of just their size and their build. But overall, a good draft. This is going to be the last one that at least I do. I don't know. Maybe somebody else at Player Profiler might drop another one. Maybe Johnny will drop another one. But that's going to do it for us, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.